In an unprecedented move, Canada has suspended operations of its critical oil export pipeline to the United States. This dramatic development marks a historic shift in the energy partnership between the two nations, triggering immediate economic consequences across America. Canada has served as America's most reliable energy partner, providing steady supplies of oil, natural gas, and electricity. However, this long-standing relationship has been disrupted, causing immediate price surges across all energy sectors. The impact is reverberating throughout the U.S. economy. American consumers face sharp increases in fuel costs, affecting daily commutes and household energy bills. The aviation sector has been particularly hard hit, with airlines implementing fare increases to offset fuel costs. Manufacturing industries are reporting significant operational challenges. Production costs have skyrocketed, leading to concerns about job losses and reduced output. The transportation sector faces unprecedented fuel expenses, affecting trucking companies and logistics firms. Market analysts are concerned about the timing of this disruption during global energy market volatility. The loss of Canadian supplies has created a gap that U.S. markets struggle to fill. Alternative sources are being sought, but establishing new supply chains requires time and investment. This development has caught Washington off guard, despite earlier signs of strain in the U.S.-Canadian relationship. Energy security experts warn of long-lasting implications for North American energy independence and market stability. The shift raises questions about the future of North American energy cooperation. How long will this suspension last? What motivated Canada's decision? And how will the United States secure alternative energy sources? As this crisis unfolds, both nations face challenging decisions that could reshape their economic relationship for years to come. Stay tuned for ongoing coverage of this developing situation. In a significant policy shift, Canada is transforming its approach to immigration and national security, creating ripples across North American markets. This decision has major implications for both Canadian and American consumers during a period of high inflation and economic pressure. Canadian officials cite several key factors behind this move, primarily focusing on enhanced national security through more stringent immigrant screening procedures. While this may slow immigration processing, it aims to better protect citizens from global threats. The economic impact is substantial. Canada is now taking a more selective approach to international workers, targeting individuals whose skills specifically match the country's economic needs, similar to Australia and New Zealand's systems. This repositioning addresses growing concerns about public service strain, particularly in healthcare, education, and housing systems in urban centers. The new measures aim to balance growth with service quality. The policy's timing coincides with heightened global tensions and ongoing conflicts, reflecting a broader trend of nations reassessing their security protocols and immigration policies. American consumers are already feeling the effects, with market analysts predicting increased costs across various sectors due to impacts on labor markets and trade relationships. This comes as both countries face inflation and economic challenges. The shift represents Canada's adaptation to changing global dynamics, positioning itself for a new era where national security and economic stability take priority over established norms. These developments indicate a broader trend of nations adjusting to an increasingly complex global landscape, where traditional partnerships are being re-evaluated in light of new security challenges and economic realities. In a seismic shift reshaping global energy markets, Canada's pivot away from U.S. energy partnerships is creating new opportunities for European and Asian nations. This realignment has sent shockwaves through international markets, with implications beyond North American borders. Recent developments show Canada's strategic plan, as billion-dollar agreements have been signed with European countries seeking to diversify from Russian supplies. This move demonstrates Ottawa's vision to position Canada as a premier global energy supplier. The effects are being felt across the American economy. U.S. industries, used to preferential access to Canadian energy resources, face a new reality. The redirection of Canadian energy infrastructure towards European and Asian markets represents a fundamental change in North American energy dynamics. As global energy demands surge, especially from China and India, Canada's positioning is increasingly advantageous. These new partnerships are creating a more diverse export market while reducing Canada's dependence on U.S. markets. The implications for Washington are significant. American policymakers must now secure alternative energy sources in a competitive global market, while traditional energy relationships are being rewritten. This transformation is reshaping international relations, with Canada emerging as a key player in global energy security. European nations seeking to reduce Russian energy dependence view Canada as an attractive partner offering stability. For the United States, this represents both an economic and strategic challenge. As Canada strengthens ties with Europe and Asia, the U.S. must adapt to an evolving global energy marketplace, where historical partnerships are no longer guaranteed. The emergence of new energy markets isn't just changing trading patterns, it's redefining global power dynamics. Washington's response will be crucial in determining its future role in the international energy landscape. Breaking news: America's energy crisis deepens as Canadian supply cuts threaten winter stability. In a dramatic shift that's sending shockwaves through the American economy, Canada's decision to restrict energy exports has left the United States facing its most severe energy crisis in decades. Major industrial states are now bracing for potential rolling blackouts as winter approaches, with experts warning of unprecedented challenges ahead. New York, California, and Michigan are particularly vulnerable to these energy disruptions. State officials are developing emergency response plans, including peak hour usage restrictions to prevent grid overloads. The timing couldn't be worse, as weather forecasts predict a harsh winter season. The impact on American industry has been immediate and severe. Major automobile manufacturers, steel producers, and food processing plants report significant operational challenges due to soaring energy costs. Several facilities have announced temporary shutdowns, while others consider permanent closure of less efficient operations. The employment situation is equally concerning. Industry analysts estimate tens of thousands of jobs in energy-dependent sectors are at risk. This development threatens to destabilize the American job market, just as it was showing recovery signs. For average Americans, the crisis means higher living costs. Electricity bills have doubled in some regions, and gasoline prices continue to climb. The resulting inflation has reached levels not seen in decades, putting additional strain on household budgets. Washington faces mounting pressure to find alternative energy sources quickly. However, establishing new supply chains takes time, a luxury the nation doesn't have as winter approaches. The situation highlights America's vulnerability to sudden changes in international energy partnerships. The crisis serves as a wake-up call for U.S. energy policy, forcing a re-evaluation of long-held assumptions about reliable energy partners. As the situation develops, many question whether this marks a permanent shift in North American energy relations. In a dramatic escalation of tensions between the United States and Canada, former President Donald Trump has threatened to impose crushing 100% tariffs on Canadian automobiles, sending shockwaves through North American markets and diplomatic circles. Speaking during a Fox News interview, Trump declared his intention to target Canada's automotive sector unless Ottawa addresses what he describes as a crisis of migrant crossings at the northern border. This stance marks a significant intensification in the already strained relationship between the two allies. Canadian Prime Minister Mark Carney responded firmly, delivering a clear message that Canada would not yield to economic pressure. "If they succeed, they destroy our way of life," Carney stated, emphasizing Canada's commitment to maintaining its sovereign decisions. The crisis has expanded into the military sphere, with Canada announcing a review of its $13.2 billion agreement to purchase 88 F-35 fighter jets from the United States. This move signals a potential shift in Canada's defense strategy and could mark the beginning of a broader realignment of military partnerships. Market analysts suggest this situation mirrors recent global patterns, reminiscent of how a former Soviet republic faced economic pressure before major geopolitical shifts. However, Canada, a G7 nation with substantial economic leverage, stands on much firmer ground. The automotive sector, representing nearly 20% of trade between the two nations, could face devastating consequences if Trump's tariff threats materialize. Industry experts warn that such measures would disrupt supply chains on both sides of the border, leading to job losses and economic downturn in both countries. As tensions mount, international observers note that this situation represents more than just a trade dispute. It's a fundamental challenge to the long-standing alliance between two of North America's largest economies. The outcome of this confrontation could reshape continental relations for decades to come. For more on this developing story, stay tuned to our channel and subscribe for updates on this critical situation affecting North American stability and global markets. Breaking news. A seismic shift is occurring in global military alliances, as traditional U.S. partners seek independence from Washington's influence. Our top story reveals how Canada and European allies are restructuring their defense relationships with America. The European Union has unveiled an $800 billion defense initiative to reduce dependency on U.S. military support. This investment signals a break from decades of American-led defense strategy in Europe. NATO member Portugal has cancelled its planned purchase of American F-35 fighter jets, marking what analysts call a significant departure from traditional military procurement patterns. This decision may encourage other NATO allies to explore alternative partnerships. Ottawa is now considering Swedish-made Saab Gripen E fighter jets instead of American aircraft. Defense experts note these jets offer comparable capabilities at a lower cost, potentially ending Canada's preference for U.S. military hardware. This comes amid strained relations between the U.S. and Canada over energy exports and immigration policies. The timing is critical for Washington, as it faces growing isolation internationally. Former Pentagon advisor James Mitchell explains, "We're witnessing a fundamental restructuring of global defense partnerships. Countries that have traditionally aligned with U.S. military interests are now seeking alternatives. This isn't just about military hardware. It's about a broader shift in global power dynamics." The implications for American defense contractors could be severe, with analysts projecting billions in losses as customers explore new partnerships. Boeing and Lockheed Martin stocks showed volatility following these announcements. This realignment represents the most significant shift in Western defense strategy since the Cold War, raising questions about America's future role in global security. Breaking news. The American economy stands on precarious ground as multiple crises converge, threatening stability for millions. Major market indicators have plunged, with the Dow Jones dropping 850 points and the Nasdaq experiencing a 3.1% decline. These market movements are raising concerns about an impending recession. In a development shocking the energy sector, Canada's decision to halt $13.3 billion worth of oil exports to the United States has created a perfect storm in the markets. This shift comes as inflation continues to squeeze household budgets and job security becomes uncertain. "We're seeing a fundamental restructuring of North American energy relationships," explains Dr. James Morrison, senior economist at Capital Research Institute. "This isn't just about oil prices. It's about the changing nature of international partnerships and self-reliance strategies. The impact is being felt across society." Small business owner Sarah Thompson from Ohio reports, "Our operating costs have doubled in the past year. We're barely keeping our doors open, and now with these energy prices, I don't know how much longer we can hold on." The effects are particularly evident in manufacturing states, where energy-intensive industries face difficult decisions about workforce reduction. In Michigan, 3 major manufacturing facilities have announced potential layoffs, citing unsustainable operating costs. Meanwhile, global markets are adjusting as nations prioritize self-sufficiency and forge new defense collaborations. This shift comes as countries like the former Soviet Republic and other regions experiencing political turbulence reshape international alliances. The immediate future remains uncertain, but analysts suggest this could represent a long-term reorganization of global economic partnerships. For Americans, this means continued pressure on household budgets and potential job instability as markets adjust to these new realities. Stay tuned for further updates as this situation continues to unfold. The recent developments in North American energy markets have created shockwaves throughout the global economy. Canada's decision to halt oil exports to the United States continues to reverberate, causing unprecedented shifts in economic and diplomatic landscapes. Oil prices have surged dramatically, with regions reporting increases of up to 40% in days. American industries, particularly manufacturing and transportation sectors, are feeling the immediate impact. Small business owners are struggling to cope with rising energy costs. The Biden administration faces mounting pressure to address this crisis. State Department sources indicate efforts to secure alternative energy supplies, but options are limited. Traditional Middle Eastern partners are at capacity, while relations with Venezuela remain complicated. The ripple effect across the American economy is concerning. Jobs are at risk, with potential layoffs in energy-intensive industries. The automotive sector faces further setbacks. The diplomatic fallout between Washington and Ottawa continues to worsen. Canadian Prime Minister Trudeau's administration cites national security and immigration concerns. U.S. officials are contemplating retaliatory measures, including tariffs on Canadian goods. Market analysts suggest this crisis could reshape North American trade relationships. As one expert notes, we're witnessing a fundamental shift in U.S.-Canada relations that could rival the trade tensions of the 1970s. For Americans, the impact is felt at the pump and in utility bills. With winter approaching, heating cost concerns are mounting. Economic experts warn this could push inflation higher, potentially affecting Federal Reserve policy. The question remains, will diplomatic channels prevail, or are we entering a new era of protectionist policies between longtime allies? The stakes couldn't be higher for both nations. Stay tuned for continuous updates and expert analysis as we monitor reactions from both capitals and global markets. Remember to subscribe for the latest developments in this unfolding crisis. Share your thoughts. How should the U.S. handle this energy challenge? Should Washington take a harder line with Ottawa, or is diplomacy the answer?